Hello friends, let's see the taxation, which is a very important chapter or very important concept of Indian economy. So before proceeding further, let us understand what is taxation and why it forms the important part in any economy, for that matter, Indian economy. So as we know that the taxation is the source of money, source of income for any state or polity. Now, what are the function of the state? That is to run the society, run the political system, that is welfare of state and society. Therefore, taxation becomes an important pillar of any economy. So now the question arises that what taxation is. Now, taxation is a compulsory contribution made by the residents. Friends, we must emphasize on the word resident. We are not considering here people, or we are not also considering citizen. We are considering here residents. So taxation is compulsory contribution made by residents towards the state, that is central government, state government, or various local governments such as municipal corporation, such as village panchayat, etc. So it is a compulsory contribution made by the residents towards the state. Number one. Secondly, if a resident who is liable or who is eligible to pay tax, if he fails to do so, so here we must also remember that failing to pay the tax on time may invite penalty or punishment. So my friends, paying taxes or taxation is a legal duty of every citizen or resident. Now, this is what the definition of tax. Now, my friends, you have to understand that what is the difference between tax and taxation. So, taxation is an elaborate system. Like we have 140 crore people, and there are many percentage like 6% and 80% of people who are eligible for different kind of taxes. So to collect the tax, to appropriate the tax, we need systematic machine, we need systematic policy, we need systematic system, group of people, trained professional who can extract the tax. So the taxation is the system of appropriating or collecting tax. So here, if we write the definition of taxation, that is, it is the process, comma, system, comma, mechanism through which any state, here if I say state, the state means a overarching political authority, not necessarily a union government or a state government or any local government. So it is the process, system, mechanism through which any state collect tax from the eligible person, or what we have used here, residents, right? So here two definitions are clear to us, what is tax and what is taxation. Now let us understand what are the different types of taxes. So friends, there are two different types of tax. One is direct tax and second is indirect tax. So let us understand direct tax and indirect tax separate. So first, direct tax. Now, though it may appear that we can understand it, but we have to understand the definition of the term so that we can write it in examination. So friends, what is the direct tax? So direct tax is a tax where point of incidence and point of impact. So for example, there is a, that is, there is a person called Ram who is eligible for tax. So direct tax is a tax which has point of incidence and point of impact at same person or same entity. So let us understand what is point of incidence and point of impact in simple terms. So point of incidence means from where, who is eligible, who is paying the tax. So here Ram is paying the tax. So for example, Ram is earning, let's say 5 lakh rupees a year. So he has to pay 5% of his salary towards the tax. So here in direct tax, Ram has to pay the taxable amount, and from effectively the money is going or money is debited from the pocket of the Ram only. So point of incidence and point of impact is on the same person. So what is the basic concept of direct tax? That point of incidence, that is upon whom the tax is imposed or upon whom the liability of tax is created, and point of impact, who will bear the burden of the tax. So in direct tax, the point of incidence or point of impact, that is the person or entity who is eligible to pay the tax, and who will bear the burden of the tax, that will remain the same. So direct tax is a tax where point of incidence and point of impact are at the same place. So what are the example of direct tax, my friends? So there are few examples. So one of the very important example of direct tax is number one, that is income tax, and second is corporation tax. So what is income tax? When a portion of the income of an individual is collected as a tax is called income tax. So from all the salaried employed or all the people who are earning and they are eligible to pay tax, so the tax that they have to pay as a proportion of their income is called direct income tax. Now what is corporation tax? So corporation tax is also similar to the income tax, but in income tax it is levied on individuals. It is levied on individuals like me, you, and other person, your parents, your brothers who are working. Maybe in future, if you start working, if you take up a job, then you also have to pay the income tax. Now what is corporation tax? So corporation tax is a tax similar to income tax, as I've told you earlier, but it is levied on businesses, corporation, etc. etc. Means at institution, at companies it is levied. So for example, to understand, let us take up example. So we know that the India's richest person is let's say Mr. Mukesh Ambani ji. So there are two. So as Mukesh Ambani ji is a CEO and MD of Reliance. So as a CEO, Mukesh Ambani ji is getting some salary. So let's say 100 crores per annum. So Mukesh Ambani ji has to pay 30%, that is 30 crore per annum as a income tax. So one tax, that is income tax. Now Reliance as an entity, let's say Reliance as an entity has a let's say profit of, let's say 10,000 crores in financial year 22-23. So Reliance as an entity has to pay income tax on profit, that is, let's say 25%. So that is 2,500 crore as a corporation tax. So when a direct tax is levied on the income of an individual, that is considered as income tax, like here. And if the direct tax imposed or levied from an commercial entity who is making profit, so as a proportion of the profit, the amount of tax which is levied is considered as corporation tax. So I hope that from this example you have understood. So now let us understand the second type of tax. We have seen direct tax, let's say indirect tax. So again, we will use the same concept. So in taxation, there is called, one is called point of incidence. And there is another term, point of impact, right? So for example, just a minute, it's hanging. So in indirect tax, the point of incidence and point of impact are at two different individuals. So for example, you visit a shop. Let's say you visit to a shop. Shop is ABC supermarket. Now, as an individual Ram, you have purchased a packet of biscuits. Let's say you have purchased a packet of biscuits. Now here you have to pay indirect tax. What is the prominent indirect tax in India is currently GST. So what? So GST will be collected. You have to, let's say biscuit price is, let's say 100 rupees. So 5 rupees you have to pay as a GST. So what will be the total price of biscuit? That is 105. Now government, now you are not paying, Ram is not paying directly to the government. Government will charge, or government will appropriate that 5 rupee not from you, but it will be taking from the shopkeeper. So point of incidence is at the shopkeeper, because shopkeeper is liable to pay. Who is liable to pay here indirect tax? Shopkeeper is liable to pay, but it is going from the box of shopkeeper, but shopkeeper is not paying it from its pocket. Who is paying it, that indirect tax from its pocket? Ram is paying from his or her pocket. So here we can see that point of incidence is at the shop, but who is paying or who is taking the burden of paying the tax? That is individual or customer. So in indirect tax, the point of incidence and point of impact is at two different places. Though all the indirect tax are levied or incident or collected from the businesses, shop, petrol pump, etc., etc., but ultimately they have to be paid by the individual and the customer. So simply put, we can say that in indirect tax, the point of incidence and point of impact are at two different individuals, two different entities. So that is why indirect. Here we can say that Ambani ji and Reliance are paying tax to government of India directly. But here Ram is not paying the tax directly to the government. He is or she is paying through the shopkeeper. Getting a point? So this is, so let us understand a prominent example of direct indirect tax. So one is one of the most important tax of indirect in nature is goods and services tax. Now, what is goods and services tax? Let us understand. So it is a goods. This is called goods and services tax. In short, it is called GST. Second type is excise tax. Third is custom tax. So GST, that is, it is levied on all goods and services. For example, you purchase a pack of biscuit or you take, let's say you take some, you go to restaurant, you go to a parlor, or you go to a 5-star hotel, so you take services from there. If you go to hospital, so if you purchase any good, if you take or if you consume any services, then you have to pay goods and services tax. Excise tax is another kind of indirect tax which is levied on production of some good. So for example, liquor, for example, petroleum. So it is levied on liquor and petroleum or others. Now, what is custom tax? So custom tax is a tax which is levied on international trade. So for example, we live in a very beautiful country, India. Let's say this is India. This is Bangalore. And this is, let's say, Mangaluru. So if a good Apple iPhone, let's say iPhone is not being produced in India, so you are importing it. For example, for a time you're importing it. So as an import, you are importing it. So iPhone price is, let's say, 100 rupees. So you have to pay, let's say, 5% extra for as a custom duty. So if you are importing some goods and services, then you have to pay custom tax. And if you are exporting, let's say we are exporting softwares to, let's say, China. So we are exporting it. So if we are exporting it, if something goods or services is being crossed or it's been transferred through the border of our great country, then also we have to pay custom tax. So these, what are the prominent example of indirect tax? That is goods and service tax, that is GST, excise tax, and custom tax. Now, very briefly, let us understand what is GST because it is very important. So as I've told you that GST is a goods and services tax. Now, it is a very new concept and it was brought in through 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act of 2016. Now, goods and services tax is a federal tax where both state and union government jointly levy it or jointly appropriate it. Now, we have to understand that there are few slabs. There are 4 slabs, that is 5%, that is 12%, 18%, and 28%. So different category of goods or different category of services that are kept under this 5%, 12%, 18%, and 28%. Before moving or before seeing all these slabs, let us say what are the 0% or what are the goods and services which are exempted from goods and services. So all those goods or services, what is the criteria? Number 1, that is they are unbranded goods. So for example, if you go to a local vegetable seller, you purchase vegetable, so you are not liable to pay GST. If you go to a local dairy shop who is not branded, who is not unpacked and unbranded item that particular fellow is selling, so you don't have to pay any tax. Second criteria is unbranded and unpacked item. Or for example, you are going to a coaching institution or a tuition which is household in nature, that is not, they are not branding, they have not brand, and they are not a systematic and organized sector. So all those goods and services which are unbranded or unpacked, so they are exempted from GST. But imagine now, instead of going to a local vegetable seller, you are going to a Reliance Fresh Mart. So you are purchasing vegetable from there. So you have to pay tax because that is taxable. So all those items which are branded, which are packed, so they are eligible for goods and services tax. So 5% tax, so very basics, all the consumer goods which are used by ordinary people such as vegetable and all this stuff, if they are packed, then they come under 5%. So recently we have seen the controversy that branded paneer or skimmed milk has recently been brought in the GST. So that has brought in 5% slab. So current affairs, that is branded or packed paneer, skimmed milk. Now, what are the goods that comes under 12%? So let's say, for example, cell phone. If you purchase mobile phone, you have to pay 12%. Secondly, if, for example, if you do air travel, what are the goods that comes under 18%? So those items which are consumed by upper class, relatively upper class. So let's say pasta. If you go to a restaurant, a Domino's, you consume pasta, you have to pay 18%. If you take coaching services, so that comes under 18%. Any 5-star restaurant, luxury hotels, then you have to pay 18%. And what are 28%? So all those items which are luxury in nature, that is like wine, cigarette, chewing gum, that they come under 28% of tax slab. So friends, this is what one more important thing that we have to see is that what is the proportion of the tax that is being collected. So the primary source, according to budget estimates, according to budget estimate 22-23, Finance Ministry had estimated, and the estimates are based on the previous year collection. So what is the top performer? So total collection, if Government of India is collecting 100 rupees, so 16% of it is coming from GST. So goods and services tax is the top performer. It gives more money. Then comes 15%, that is corporation tax. Then comes 15%, that is income tax. Then comes 7%, that is union excise tax. And now excise, what is the primary source of union excise? That is petrol, diesel, LPG, etc., etc. And not but the least, that is 5% of the trade of the tax that collected is from custom tax. Now, because we have seen in last COVID days why this is low, because trade has been obstructed by the pandemic. So friends, here we have seen the basic concept of the taxation, which is essential for any civil service examination, both union and at the level of the state.